Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight, my guest is Dean McMurray. Before I bring him on, I want to tell you about My Patriot Supply. They are the experts in emergency preparedness. Right now is a pretty critical time in our modern history with a very unsure future, especially when it comes to the food supply. It couldn't hurt to have an emergency food supply. Right now, you can get $70 off a 2 week supply and $100 off a 4 week supply of their awesome food. It stays good in storage for up to 25 years. Just visit preparewithfkn.com or click the link in the description to get your emergency food supply today. Also, please subscribe to Forbidden Knowledge News on lbry.tv. It's our official backup channel. We have a brand new show called Beyond Classified. It's exclusively on Rokfin. Those links are in the description. I talk about Rokfin all the time. And finally, this weekend only, you can get $10 off your tickets to this year's Forbidden Knowledge News Con. It's going to be April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They're going to have 12 extraordinary presenters, and that brings the price down to only $19.99 for the full conference. You can't beat that for an online conference. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.news, get your tickets right now, or click any of the links we have down there in the description. If you have any questions or problems getting your tickets, just email me at forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Tonight, I want to welcome back to the show Dean McMurray. He's a 24-year Army veteran working as a spiritual medium. He contacts departed loved ones, angels, and spirit guides by connecting the earth plane and spirit realm. As a clairvoyant, he receives visions of people, places, and things of the past, present, and future. His clairsentient gifts means he can also receive psychic senses, including smell, taste, and touch. And as an empath, he takes on the sensations of the physical and emotional states of being. Dean, welcome back. How you doing tonight?
Hey, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I love having you on. It's always great. And it's been a while since you were last on. I think it was the Forbidden Knowledge News Con last year, right?
I think it was. I think it was. Time sure flies.
Yeah, it's been almost a year, man. That's
I
crazy.
know.
Yeah,
It's
tonight
crazy.
I want to discuss, not only how this phenomenon works for you. It's been a while. I want to hear how it all got started for you. I'm sure the audience would love to hear that as well. And then we're going to get into some live readings a little bit
Oh,
later in
great.
the show. The instructions, as you can see, guys, are on the screen. You just dial *67. That'll block your number from being seen on the screen. Dial the numbers you see there, use the meeting ID and password you see, and when you connect, just give us your name and a question that you have for Dean. And that's going to be that simple. And we'll let you know when it's almost time for you guys to start dialing in, and we'll go ahead and take your calls. First, Dean, it's been crazy the past year with everything going on.
Yeah.
How has you and your family been?
We've been well. We've been doing really well, kind of dare I say hunkering down like everybody else and dealing with the everyday, but things have been good even though in the face of this adversity, everybody's handed a set of challenges, but no, we're very blessed to be doing well during this time.
That's good. That's very good. Now, you've been on a few times. We've discussed your
Yeah,
abilities, but it's been a while. First of all, you have obviously psychic abilities. With everything that's going on, can you
sure.
sense a collective sense that something is different? That more anxiety, kind of more fear around.
Yeah, and not only sense it, Chris, but I see it come up and people reaching out because people reach out in crisis mode. Not only are they awakening up spiritually, but they're having more, if you call it attachments, different things that might be heavier energies or uh, how do I want to say experiences that might not be so pleasant, right? And so really wherever that is or whatever that is for the individual, they're kind of I've been seeing a lot of people in what I would call is a crisis mode and be like, "Oh my God, this going is going on," or and it's more than, you know, somebody cheated on me. It's, talking about, an increase in spirit activity, more about stepping into their spiritual awareness and just the craziness of energies, the emotional highs and lows. and people finally feeling it. And
You think it's some sort of
what
mass awakening that we're experiencing here?
yes and no. I think we've been going through it, but I think when you, just like anything, if you proverbially think of a stereo, right, and you turn up this volume, more and more people, the higher the frequency, the more people are going to hear it or kind of go through it. And I think right now, because of everything is all these social, political events, just locally and around the world. I think it's just so time, or you think about within the timeline or the matrix of just how big energetically and historically it is, especially with COVID and the vaccine, and just everybody's everywhere as far as their division, the you know the cancel mentality, cancel everything, right? Or the separation aspect has been certainly interesting.
Yes, it certainly definitely has.
Yeah,
Now, it's like I said, it's been a while since you've kind of been on and explained where this all began for you. You weren't really born aware of your abilities, and it wasn't from an early age, right? You kind of realized this a
yeah,
little later, huh?
yeah. So I was still very much in the military at the time, and I had just returned from my last deployment overseas, and I had returned, and then I call it all holy hell started breaking loose for me, where clocks and pictures were flying off the wall, and that's really why I wanted to get answers of what was going on. And so I had a psychic come over, and she was saying that my grandfather was there, and just a lot of different things that I wasn't in the mood, quite honestly, to hear. I just wanted everything to stop, and really nothing calmed down for me. In fact, everything increased, meaning, more and more activity, like stuff flying. By now it's like the poltergeist house, right? And that's really when my grandmother, who at that point, I'm trying to think, I want to say it was almost, oh, at least 30. Yeah. I was about 11 when she passed. So, that was in my 40s when she showed up. You do the math. It had been a lot of years. And, the crazy thing is that, you know, part of me knew that it was my grandmother. And then I had the conversation with myself, like, how do I know it's grandma? And then, when I went to bed that evening, um, you know, I just kind of asked in my head, hey, why don't you touch me? If you're really here, why don't you just touch me? And quite literally, she pushed me into the bed. Now, of course, in my original story, I kind of go into detail as well, but in the recap, that's basically the premise of it. She scares a holy shit right out of me, and by pushing me into the bed, and I have a come to Jesus moment, and basically trying to figure out what that meant at that point in my life. That was about 10 years ago or better. And, quite honestly, I was being told that I was a medium, and I didn't want it. I didn't want to step into spirituality, didn't believe in all that stuff until I had my own, experience. And then once I embraced who I was as a medium, then it was more about trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do with it? And I was like, who is being a psychic medium for Dean McMurray, not James Van Prague or John Edward? Those guys at the time were on TV. It's very prolific. Um, but I was like, I'm just me, you know, just like anybody else. And you wake up in the morning, like, am I going to make coffee with my mind? What, how are you going to use, you know, and I always think back to it. And if you wake up tomorrow with a superpower, or you become awakened to a superpower, you're like, what are you going to use it for? Like, if you could learn that you could fly, or that, what are you going to use it for? And then really you don't know, I think at some level, but I knew that, I've always been in the business of helping people. That's why I went in the military. And so I knew that it was in some form or fashion of that. I didn't know what that would look like for me, but um and then of course after I retired, it was really in the service of being a medium, and of course through my spiritual journey, then I picked up other modalities along the way, but like dowsing and other things, but you know, um really helping people has been at the core of, since day one. And it just always made sense. So,
And eventually, would you say spirits started coming to you with requests, sort of?
yeah, so interesting. I think we talked about this on the last show, where I got some, I should say, because I did read some of the comments, and it always stirs up a lot of emotions in others. Yeah, so stepping into this, sometimes you get random spirits, right? Just showing up. Like, there was a long time early in my development that we never knew who was showing up until, you know, kind of start figuring it out, kind of doing a reading for ourselves. And there was the whole thing back with, you know, Sandy Hook happened. There was other things like airliners that have gone down, and folks just kind of show up at the house, and I'm like, who are you? And then we have a kind and be like, I need to look this person up for whatever reason. And I was like, holy shit, like this is so, okay, what's your message? And then I always write it down somewhere. And then trusting that when it's time, I'll be asked to deliver it, or put in a position to maybe have somebody else deliver, whatever. But being in the vessel in that moment or in that way. So yeah, sometimes it's showing up all kinds of ways. There's people that have drowned are showing up the house, people that committed suicide. I mean, it's I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, how could you how could you have a family, or how could you live like, and it was okay as long as it's not bugging anybody else. So like, my wife and I have two kids, a teenager turning 15 here in a week, and we have a 10-year-old. And the thing is that as long as spirits are not bugging them, um you know unless, of course, unless my kids request to communicate with spirit, but because they're very gifted as well. But what I would share is that, if they're getting unsolicited bugged, maybe by the spirit paparazzi, I don't know if you want to use that analogy, but I have not. I guess we set boundaries around it, or at least I do. With spirit. So early on in the development, it got kind of crazy. There was a lot of times where, you know, um, spirit would just show up in the middle of the night and be making noise. You swear to God that there's a somebody going through the cupboards downstairs, and there's everybody's in bed. So it's like, really, can you do
Wow.
some dishes while you're down there? It's um, so we joke about it more, but really setting good boundaries has been where it's been through the years.
Earlier, you mentioned dowsing. Now, for those that
Yeah.
aren't really familiar, what is dowsing, and what are
So
you entailing with
right.
it?
So basically, dowsing at its core is super, super old. It goes back, some would argue, before Egyptian times, but it was really big, and documented within the pyramids and everything. Basically, dowsing in a nutshell is the ability to detect and pinpoint energy. Really, at its core, that's what it is. Now, typically, you're using a tool, a bobber, L rods. It look like a brass coat hanger bent at a 45, so it looks like a L. Um, some people use pendulums, all different types of tools, But basically, you're going and locating certain energies. Some people like using dowsing when they're doing paranormal investigations because it's a tool. You can pinpoint energies again. So, like spirits, you could get yes or no questions. The same with other entities or whatever the case, right? The same with pendulums and other tools. The thing that I want to share is what I learned, and there's a way for a lot of people that live in the rural communities, maybe on farms and ranches, are familiar with dowsing for water. Ranchers still use it, very common today. A lot of water digging, well digging companies still use it, um, and that's very accurate. The way that I was taught, though, is basically again, you know, detecting, locating, and neutralizing energies that are not harmonious for us within a home or business. And basically, when we talk about key lines and ley lines and negative Hartman lines, all that stuff, where they are within relation to the building, how you can move it, and even actual known and plotted underground aquifers or underground streams that are naturally occurring, we can actually get them to shift course so it's not causing issues through the foundations. But I have learned in years how to work with realtors. I was like, hey, you got an ability, who could use this? And I was like, and what we started noticing, my wife and I, when we would douse homes, prior to putting it on the market, they were selling so much quicker than other homes. And so we thought, huh, I so I made up a kind of, a flyer at one point, and I thought, you know what, it's a great tool to have in your toolbox, and why not offer that to somebody that might be able to use it? And we work with my wife and I both work with, realtors and home builders here in our local area. And I actually am working with a landowner right now that owns land in Ecuador that we're helping them move. So basically I do it all remotely now, and it's something that I don't have to fly to Ecuador. I don't have to I don't have to travel. So I could be, somebody could be in Iowa and here I am in North Dakota, and either I talk to them on the phone or simple email, whatever the case is. But again, energy is energy. It doesn't matter where it is, you can work it. So
That's cool. Now, have you, I guess, cleansed any houses that were considered haunted or maybe had
yeah,
attachments? Yeah. Could you tell us about maybe
yeah,
some of
the
those?
the haunted house. Well, first off, I'll tell you about the one, the possessed congregation, a church that I did here in the local area. And I had a pastor reach out to me, great guy, reached out to me, said, Dean, I think my congregation is being possessed. And I was a little alarmed, but I started feeling into it, and I was the energy of. And I was like, yeah, it's not possessed. I don't feel anything evil with it. But I was like, I'll follow up. And so I actually went to this church. Of course, the pastor, and I know that, and this is a very traditional church, and in a very, I don't know, it's kind of a mix. It's some is progressive, some not, thought process. So as far as he was taking a big risk having a medium, if anybody knew me, not that everywhere I go, everybody goes, look, the military medium. So, that's kind of to his credit. But the thing is nobody knew who I was while I was there. And I said, as far as anybody else is concerned, that I'm just somebody looking at the church, somebody wanting to talk to you. And basically he gave me a tour of the church, and I said, well, you got spirits, but you don't have a possession case per se. But what it turned out to be was actually a super negative. You know how churches have boards. So they run basically the church, right? And they make suggestions and all this. Well, this church had such a negative person on the board that it was, in a sense, you could say, possessing. That negativity was so nasty. It was possessing, in a sense, or poisoning the rest of the congregation. And again, I want to share that this pastor was at the end of his rope. He actually had turned in his resignation to the diocese, and they had turned him down. They said, "No, you'll
Wow.
figure it out. You and God will figure it out.
Wow, that's
You,
crazy.
God, and Dean McMurray, the psychic medium, will figure
Yeah.
it out," and that's all right. And but anyways, I said, "Yeah, let's." I said, "You know what?" I said, "I'll tithe this. I'll tithe this to the church, and basically I'll give to the church by doing this. I'm not going to charge anything, and give me some time." And so I did all the remotely, and I reached out to the guy. Was it a couple weeks later? And nothing. It started to change with them by a month. Um, he had said, "Oh my God, I love being a pastor again. The congregation is coming back. It's stronger. Our youth, a lot of positive things." So yeah, so there was, I guess, that one. The other one, and I want to share too, which is cool part of the story. When I first made my initial consultation at the church, when I was driving to this, very easy to find, and right before the church across the street is a fast food place. And it was almost like something took my arm and turned me in to that parking lot of the fast food place. And I'm like, why did I turn here? I was like, it was almost like something else was trying to direct me away from the church. And, I just kind of was saying out loud in the car, I was like, you're not going to keep me from the church. I'll get out and walk if that's what I need to do. And so I drove across the road through the, parking lot into the church. And as soon as I parked the car in the church parking lot, my nose started bleeding. And I was like, "Oh." And so
Wow.
I'm like, "Hey, I'm still going," like I'm talking to myself, right? But my thought is, if there's something really negative here trying to keep me away, I'm just, and that was the only thing that was like, "Hey, let's see if we can scare them."
Wow,
And
that's
I'm like,
crazy.
"You gotta do better than that. Come on now. You gotta do better than." I mean, I've taken hits harder than that. Come on, it's like so. Anyway, so yeah, and then the cleansings and everything, as far I didn't get sick, I didn't have any attachments. So, but yeah, have I had some other really, I guess, interesting case? Absolutely. Some worked a case with a reptilian possession. Um, Gentleman had knew that there was something on him, or he said that was just didn't seem right. And basically what boiled down to was, I was at a loss. I hadn't experienced that at that point. And everything I was doing traditionally wasn't working for him. And I reached out to an old mentor of mine and explained to him what was going on. And he said, "Look him in the eyes next time that you're doing a session for him." And I was like, "What am I looking for?" And he was like, "Oh, you'll know. You'll know." And so I did that. And the next time I did that, it was just like a brief second, just a brief moment of time. But it was, I just saw him switch and switch back the pupils, right? And I was like, like I think I said, "Holy shit." And because it kind of freaked me out. I was like, if you haven't ever seen it before, it's really it's a bit unsettling. Then I was like, "Well, now what?" It's like, okay, now I know. But and then it was through a trial and error for me, but we were able to, in the end, end up helping this gentleman. And but yeah, it was certainly interesting working with. So have I worked a little bit on with extraterrestrial stuff? Absolutely. Possessions, attachments. Also work some stuff with implant stuff in other people, and
Like
Yeah,
physical
so
implants or more like
yeah,
etheric?
physical implants.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, physical implants.
Well,
And sometimes they come and go in people, and which is really interesting is one case where we were doing the clearing and you could physically see it in the beginning just underneath the skin. It was like a looked like a freckle, but yet it was clearly underneath the skin. And I'd never seen that. It wasn't a wart or, a skin anomaly. It was a you could tell because we were trying to do all the, I guess if you call it, analysis that we could other than digging it out. And we did the clearing and we went to look back again and it was gone. So kind of crazy stuff. So
yeah,
I
that's really cool. Now,
yeah, so
I just want to let the audience know that you can start calling in. We can start taking your calls anytime as soon as the calls start popping up. Now, speaking about the entities that you
yeah.
communicate with past loved ones, ancestors, angels, and
Yep.
of course extraterrestrials, like you mentioned.
Right.
I maybe talk about how it's different, communicating with each of
Right.
these different types of entities.
Right. Well, I would share is that first off, I want to share this as a medium, as a medium, as a medium. We all do the same thing, but we all do it differently. So not two mediums will be do the same work the same. They might do it similar, but they'll do it unique unto them. It's kind of interesting because angels to me are the if you think of the hub, if you could put a feeling to a hummingbird, right? Like so very buzzy, maybe like maybe if you can envision like a bumblebee, right? And very high vibration. And then, what I would say is deceased loved ones that have crossed over. So very loving, but at the same time has a sense of peace or um, fulfillment to it. There's not a longing and it's interesting because I really bring in all my other psychic abilities into when I'm doing mediumship. So a lot of times people hear, um, me use the words like I feel a grandmother step forward. It's because I feel also, the energy, or I may feel, and I know this sounds weird, but I might feel colors or feel or a or a texture. So some of those things, where I'm able to discern what it is by its frequency, or you know, so it's always kind of interesting. So I always try to, because if you had extra tools in your toolbox to only accentuate the reading, why not do that? And it doesn't happen all the time. You're not using all your abilities all the time, but it's the ones that are needed are
Right on.
used.
Hey, we got a caller. Let me go ahead and
Okay.
check out my waiting room here. All right. We're going to admit caller one. Hello. What's your name?
My name is Michelle.
Hello, Michelle. What's your question for
Hello.
Dean?
Just, I guess, does he have like a message that I need to receive or anything that I need to, you know, focus in on more or kind of generality? I guess that's the question I'm asking. Just, does he
Sure.
pick up on anything that I need to know about?
Sure. Absolutely. Thanks for calling, Michelle. So, a couple things for you, Michelle. First and foremost, remember is Chris was mentioning, I communicate with a lot of angels. First and foremost for you is knowing that, coming from the message of Archangel Michael, and I know that it sounds simple, but really talking about the simple message that you're protected. I don't know if there's been some, instance of vulnerability or feeling like somebody doesn't have your back, but that's the kind of vibe that Michael is giving me as far as really letting you that you know that you're protected during this time. The other thing that I want to recognize and validate too is a female that's stepping forward for you. And one of the things that she talks about is really having the connection to the month of January. It feels like right around in there. One of the so feels like either a birth or death connection. One of the things that she also talks, or that I keep on smelling, is the very strong scent of vanilla. And which is interesting, when I smell the vanilla, I see orchids. And I'm like, okay, well, orchids are very pretty, but typically they're not always the vanilla flavor, or no, I shouldn't say flavor, but aroma. But the thing that I would share is, Michelle, as you go forward, really talking about March, everything else, number one, you are loved, but the thing is that the signs are all around you, because I keep on feeling like a emptiness, right? And saying I
Mhm.
almost kind of feel some angst or some frustration. And the thing that I'm hearing is continually look for those signs, because one of the things that I feel is almost kind of the frustration, like, why don't I get signs, or why am I not getting the sign that I want? And understanding the sign is there. It's just, and I know it sounds counterintuitive, but to
Mhm.
say, don't reach for the signs, you can ask for them, but when you don't receive them either in the way that you want or the sign that you want, continually ask for it again. Does that make sense?
Yes. I nothing. I mean, with the January that you were speaking of, um was it recent or was this some time ago? I
Sure. So again, if I was to give you a timeline, it feels like about 5 years ago, that 5, 6 years ago timeline.
okay.
Okay.
All right. Well,
So
does that help you out?
It does. Just
Good.
a little bit. I'm still trying to.
I
I guess.
and I trust out who that is. Michelle will make sense to you. Understanding that, sometimes it's a lot to take in a short amount of time. But I trust
Yeah.
that who it is, and the message will make sense to you a bit down the road, going, oh, he was talking about so and so, or whatever the case is. So the only thing
Okay.
that I ask is just stay open to that. But again, talking about signs, and another great one for folks out there too struggling with signs, I want to share real quick. Um, maybe ask for something that you typically don't see.
Mhm.
If you're having problems with signs from spirits. So,
All right. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Have a
Okay.
good night.
Bye bye. Bye. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Who do we have next? All right. Welcome, caller. What's your name? Welcome to Forbidden Knowledge News.
Jane,
Jane. Jane, welcome. What's your question for Dean?
I have to know if there was an incident that happened, whether or not I caused somebody's death.
well, that's a big question to ask, Jane. Okay,
Yeah,
get me. You're like, yeah, that's why I called, Dean.
and he'll know if
Right.
he'll know.
Um, interesting, Jane, is that it feels like, how do I want to say it? Feel like I keep on being shown, and I know this is a weird analogy, but I got to share with you, which I'm seeing, is I'm seeing an egg, right? I'm being shown an egg, but it's almost like the all this crazy traumatic event or unfolding around it. And I feel you in the presence of this, but I don't feel you being the one, in a sense, like being when you're saying like cause their death. um I just feel you like in the energy of the event somehow. Does that make sense to you? So like involved at some level, but I don't feel like you're the end all. Like when you talk about, did my actions during that day or that event, did that lead to their death? It doesn't feel like that was the final piece. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then can I ask you too, Jane, I keep on being shown peanuts. Does that mean anything to you?
Just a little bit.
Okay, so bags of peanuts. Okay. So really it's about it's going to be okay. And the other thing is and excuse me for the French, but I was told this somebody drinking beer over here to my right and saying, yeah, tell her to get her shit together. They were doing it in a
Really?
joking, loving, yes, but they were just, and I was like, okay, I will do that. I never filter anything, but just in a really loving, manner. But it's like, okay, I will tell her that.
Do you have any idea what that person was wearing?
Well, it's interesting because they drink crap beer. Number one, I got to share that, and they're a smoker. Just acknowledge that right off the bat. The other piece is that yeah, I keep on seeing like they hand me like give her this, she'll know, and they just hand me a watch, and so it feels more like a wristwatch. So that's all I see him with it.
That's pretty impressive.
Okay. Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much, Jane.
Thank
I hope
you.
you're.
Thank you, Jane.
Yes, thank you.
All right. I think that's all the calls we have for right now. I got a couple of questions from the chat, though. Yes,
Yeah.
Dean can take questions from the chat. All right. And if you'd like to call in, you see the number on the screen. Go ahead and feel free to call in with a question for Dean. Shannon says, I am thinking about moving to Northeast Arizona. Is it a good move?
Well, I guess I would ask her where she's currently living, but
Where are you living, Shannon? Go ahead, Dean.
But actually, it feels for Shannon, it feels like it's a good move. It feels, I didn't feel any resistance when I was just feeling the energy of the talk of moving there. It feels like she's already moved, maybe emotionally. I think she moved ahead of her physical move. She was like, screw it, I'm already there. So yeah, no, it feels like a good fit. It feels like a good fit for her. But I want to share this too, Chris, is when people talk about, because we've been talking about moving as well, right?
She says Kentucky.
Okay. Yeah. So it feels like a good move. What I want to share is this, is that if you're talking about moving, try to detach yourself from the emotional outcome of that piece and just like, is it truly a good fit for us? But
All right. Well, there you go, Shannon.
go with your intuition.
Thank you. All right. Got a question from Kim. Will I be able to sell my apartment this year or next?
I guess I would ask her where she lives.
Yeah.
You know
All right,
what
Kim, where you live?
I'm just trying to get a little bit of timeline. It feels like this year, and I'm understanding that it is in the, I would say late summer, early fall time frame. So it feels like it's on the higher end. But of course, you always, and of course, just because the energy there is there, if the market in your area sucks, there's nothing anybody can do about that. And also prices, that's logic, right? But at the same time, I just want to share is that just because even if the energy is great somewhere or with a place, it certainly won't sell if the numbers don't support it or the market. But that's what I'm feeling as far as the energy, but we understand the energy can change. So,
All right, there you go, Kim. We got another caller. Let's see here. Hello, caller. What's your name? Welcome to Forbidden Knowledge News.
Hey, how's it going? My name's William.
Hello, William. What's your question for Dean?
Hey, so I guess my question right now is I've had quite a bit of unusual UFO and extraterrestrial sort of experience in my life, especially in the last 5 years since I saw a very up close UFO. I'm just wondering, is there any message that you might receive from perhaps a star family or a group of extraterrestrials that may be somehow involved in my life?
Sure, sure. No, interesting, when you were saying that maybe like a star family, William, for you, it's really about getting back to who William is at it almost feels like when I connect to your name and you as the individual. Have you been maybe following since your incident, like, oh my God, as a human, I'm living a lie. Like, I don't even feel like I deserve this name. And it almost feels like where you're coming from is in that Palladian type, uh, quadrant, if you will, out that way. Um, you know, and, really talking about getting back to your true sense of self and understand that even though your spirit is contained within this meat suit, so to speak, is that it doesn't mean that your soul self can't connect to back home, so to speak. So
Hmm.
maybe really look into and I don't, maybe you already have, but like astral traveling or different things like that as far as connecting, but it really
I
feels like,
ha-
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I have looked into astral travel. I seem to have an immensely hard time with meditating
Hmm.
or anything of the sort. Trying
Yep.
to come out of body or
Yep.
remote view or anything like that seems to be almost like there's a block in the way.
Right. Well, it's because one of the things for you, William, is that you're designed not to go through a big song and dance with it. I feel for you that you should be able to go like this and just do it. Like, and not think about it. You just do it. I'm there. I don't have to travel per se. Now one moment I'm here, now I'm there. And like it's not a big production. So I think for you, it's like it's like going now to high speed wireless and going back to the old dial up, right? And so
Gotcha.
if you're, yeah, so right now I think you're just the frustration aspect of going, meditation bores me, the old visualization, all that stuff is like dial up to me. This is so old. It's so boring. And it's because you should be able to do it innately, immediately. And it's because
Mhm.
you just, you're that good at it, whether you realize it or not.
Okay. Cool.
All
Thanks, William.
right. Thank you, William.
Thank you very much.
All right, we got another caller. Let me check out my waiting room. Hello, caller. Welcome to Forbidden Knowledge News. What's your name?
Mike,
Mike, welcome. What's your question for Dean?
will my cancer ever return?
Well, to be really honest with you, Mike, and I like trying to stay positive and optimistic, I do feel that it does make a return for you. So I'd really just stay aware of your body, not saying that, of course, obviously not being in, crisis mode, but saying, trying to be in the best optimal health that you can. So, um, but let's hope that, and we understand that with future energy that it could change. Um, but just reading the energy right now, it does unfortunately feel like it has a high probability of returning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
You
right.
never want to give that. Like, what do you,
Yeah.
everybody wants to be a medium till you have to do medium stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's a
Tell
tough one.
people ask questions. Yeah.
All right. We got something else in the chat here. Crossover 93 asks, anything to look out for in the future?
For her or for them?
Crossover, yes. That's a question from the chat.
So for crossover, one of the things I would share is the thing that I get is going forward is be aware of too many commitments, like overextending yourself. It feels like just too much projection, and committing yourself more than you should. So really setting boundaries really is what it's about. So um, everything else kind of feels good. It might be kind of tight financially in the third quarter going into the fourth quarter for some reason, but I think that's more because of a transition. So just be aware of it. We all have the ability to change the narrative of our story. So, but thank you so much for your question.
All right, thank you, Crossover. We got another caller here. Hello, caller. Welcome to Forbidden Knowledge News. What's your name?
Hi, Erin calling.
Hey, Aaron.
How are
If
you?
you could turn down, good. If you could turn on your YouTube in the background so there's no echo. What's your
Yep.
question for Dean?
I did.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Hi, Dean.
Hi.
I did write a message in the chat, so just go ahead and disregard. But I'm actually only up like an hour away from you. I'm in Fergus Falls, so good to
Okay,
see you.
go for Falls.
So yeah. So wondering if you can see that there's a purpose as far as like healing or helping out in some kind of a way. I'm on the verge of maybe coming into some of that, and just wondering if there was a direction or something that you're seeing in spirit.
Right. Well, one of the things, Aaron, that I would share is that with you, you're a huge empath first and foremost.
Yep.
The other thing is that really trying to come with terms with that. Number one, which is big enough, but number two
Yes.
is you are a very gifted healer, and I would share as a caveat, we're all healers. But for you, that just is going to come really natural, or it does come natural, just because you try to fix everybody anyways, right? Kind of the mother.
Absolutely. Yep.
The other
I'm
piece
Cancer. Yeah.
we're not addressing, though, the elephant in the room, Aaron, is your ability to communicate with spirit, because Gabriel is a chatty Cathy, so I'm understanding the ability to communicate is very strong as well. So regardless of what direction you initially take, I feel it down the road, if you allow it to really blossom into a lot of different things. I think you're going to find out, like, holy crap, and I can talk to these, and it's very natural for healers. Like, a lot of times, if you've ever had sessions like Reiki or different things, a lot of those practitioners start connecting with deceased loved ones. Understand that
Yeah.
it's very natural when we start playing with energy and crossing that veil, so to speak, into that other dimensions. We start, oh, hey, there's your mom and dad, or oh, hey, there's your grandpa and grandma. It's like, okay, well, it's maybe you need a message, maybe there's something there. But yeah, so you
Spot on.
got a lot going on, Aaron, but a lot of good stuff, and it's really buzzy right now. So it means, it kind of feels to me like in the foundational time where you can't consume enough, and it's like to get that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the honeymoon phase of spiritual awakening, and I love it. So that's but it's fun. So enjoy it.
Fantastic. You're
Awesome.
spot on. Thank you so much.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks. Okay. Take care.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye. Let's see who else we got. We have chat questions. All right. Claudette asks, any messages from Spirit for her?
Claudette. Well, it was interesting. As I was writing her name down, I was like, oh, it almost feels like a father figure stepping forward for her and giving her just tremendous, tremendous hugs, just a really strong male figure. And I understand that, he makes it known to me more about heart issues prior to passing. and then the thing that also understanding with him is that I keep on seeing a large flag. So typically that means a veteran connection as well. So, but the thing for you, Claudette, is knowing number one, yes, you are loved and supported, but really letting you know how proud of you not only he but everybody else in spirit is. And then there was something about guilt as well, and I don't know if you were the caretaker or something of this male, but understand that you're carrying. He keeps on talking about carrying a burden of guilt around and saying it's not yours to carry. So really, that's the biggest piece because it's just causing so much proverbial weight for you, and it's not healthy to carry that around. So, kind of talking about letting it go if you can find space to do that, and reminding you that you're loved. But just a lot of love. You got crazy, and then I got to share is that for Claudette too. There's talking about like a little Yorkie, I think is the dog, or is it a Shih Tzu? I don't know my dogs very well. This is a little dog. It's a little lap dog. Um, so yeah. Thanks,
All right.
Claudette.
Well, there you go, Claudette. Thank you very much. Okay, so we do have time for one or two more calls if anyone wants to call in and get a reading from Dean. Let me go ahead and check and see if we no callers right now. So go ahead and call in right now to get those last minute calls in. Let's see. I got a question in the chat. Cheryl asks, should we sell our house this year?
Um, I guess kind of a blunt another question. Um, for sure, I feel that you want to, but I don't feel that you should. And let me clarify that because the emotional want, I feel that there's something bigger. So if you just wait a little bit, I don't know if it's next year or later this year. I don't get the time, but it's basically just hold up right now. Um, so, you know, I don't feel this year though. If I had to define it, I would say not this year. So
All
there's
right,
something
very good.
bigger. There's like an offer or something. So maybe you're waiting on a job or a place to live or something to open up, and maybe this is it. So trust that there's a reason. So
All right, awesome. Let's see. Jasmine asks, I am open to receiving any messages you feel compelled to share. My question is, am I on the right path? Thank you. All right, Jasmine.
I love those general. Yes, you were on the right path. No, Jasmine, all joking aside, you absolutely you're on the right path. But I want to share is energy from Archangel Metatron for you. Metatron, for those that are not familiar, usually step forward, at least in my readings, when we're talking about people that have a lot of out-of-body experiences or remote viewing or different things. So a lot of things going on for you, but I would share is that also the Gabriel is very busy for you as well, talking about your intuitive senses kind of going haywire. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying that it's like you're getting a lot of intuitive hits just here and there, and it's like, what is going on? So in a sense, kind of having a different spiritual awakening. Not saying that you haven't already been on one or a journey, but it's kind of like a side door opening, so to speak. Um, really your guidance is to really be patient. I'm really feeling that you're really being tested in a sense, and it's not by anybody in spirit, but it's more, those around you, not only in a work environment, but in your social. So really be aware of that and setting those boundaries. But um, just really be patient or maybe set bigger, deeper boundaries with those folks. And I know the pandemic has probably helped, especially all empaths, with a lot of people that they didn't care to be around and be like, you know what, I'm just good at home. I'll telecommute in. So yeah, for sure. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jasmine. Okay, we got another caller. Well, this will be our last call for the evening. Hello, caller. Welcome to Forbidden Knowledge News. What's your name?
Hi, it's Rebecca.
Hello, Rebecca. What's your question for Dean?
Okay, my question for Dean is I sold my home. I've got $70,000. What's the right thing to do with it?
Ooh. Wow, that was a loaded question. Well,
Yeah, it's
here's my question to you, Rebecca, is what are you feeling guided to do with it? Are you feeling guided to, go on a trip? Are you retired? There's
I'm not retired actually. I'm wondering like I feel like I should move out west. I just don't know where.
right, right. I feel like you have like a Oregon line with you, like something to do that Northwest Territory area. Kind
Okay.
of, yeah, something close to water. I feel a connect, and I also smell like, um, you know, getting a lot of recharged by water, and then also area where you can go out and explore. But the first state that popped into my head was Oregon.
Okay,
And
and it makes sense because water is so important. Water is life.
there you go. There you go. Absolutely. So I don't know if you love the mountains, if you love the
I
ocean.
do.
Oh, well, there you go. And here's what I would share for you, Rebecca, and this would go the same for anybody else thinking about moving, is even if you get where you think you might want to move. So, for example, somewhere in Oregon, you can either do some map dowsing, which is a pendulum over a map, and maybe take the state of Oregon and look at different towns or cities and kind of
Okay.
ask yes or no questions like, is it my highest good to live in this town or this town? But or maybe just out of interest, and you circle some towns or cities, and then there's nothing wrong with maybe taking some time, if you have it, to go and visit that state or that city or town and be like, oh my God, I'm totally like, sometimes we step into that past life energy, and I feel actually that's what it is that ties you to Oregon for some reason.
Oh,
There's a past life
very
piece.
nice.
Yeah, so I think you're gonna get somewhere kind of where it has a little bit of plains, but nice rolling hills and a beautiful view, and you're gonna be like, oh my God, I've been here before. Oh my God, I feel like I'm home, or you're going to be all
Yeah.
kinds of confused, but really, really happy. Like a piece of you has returned, so to speak. So be
That
interesting to
sounds
hear.
amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so much for your help.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You have a good night.
You
Oh,
too. Bye.
thank you. All right. That was awesome, Dean. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for that. Yeah, we're going to have to
thank
do
you.
this again sometime soon. Before you head out, let everyone know where they can find you, your website, social media, and if anything you got interesting upcoming.
If you want to head over to my website, you can do so at deanmcmurray.com, and you can book sessions right there. Also, I'm running a quick plug on a special I'm running this month. It's my birth month, so every year I run what I call March Madness special, and where it's a year of email readings for $360. It's a one-time fee, so it's less than $1 a day, and you get one email reading per month. If you want to connect on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that, the military medium, just search it. I'm there. And then also, if you want to check out the podcast too, the show, the Red White News Show, or the Intuitive Real Estate Consulting page is out there as well. Yeah, you can connect to me just about any way. Just go through the website or social media. I'm there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dean. Amazing
Thank you,
time
Chris.
as usual. We'll have you back on in the future.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me on, and it was a real blast connecting to you and your listeners again. And
Yeah,
like I said, thanks.
it was